for making us a part of your day. And I believe that there's going to be some real simple solutions to what you might view as some real extremely complicated circumstances, particularly with your marriage and your relationships. I have two wonderful experts that have really committed their lives into rescuing and helping others. Audrey and I, as you know, have this deep passion to be able to love couples to life, that you wouldn't just survive in your marriages, that you might really begin to be able to thrive and enjoy life the way you were meant to. So I want to introduce you to my new friends, Joyce and Bill Harley. Welcome to It's a New Day.
Thank you. It's so good to be with you.
We're delighted to be with you today.
I have in front of me, and we can take a cover shot on this. I have in front of me all kinds of books. I have authors with me, but I have prolific authors, writers. And you have taken, because when I see this, I've written a little bit, and I know the labor of love that goes into that. And so this week, as we take time to really focus on our relationships and our marriages, this is a lot of love, because you care about people. And so I just want to say thank you for coming and being willing to invest your time, with us, that we might be able to share you with the multitudes.
It's our pleasure.
So thank you. Let's talk about yourself. If people go looking for you, they're going to find you easily on the internet. Simply Google marriages and up you come.
There we are.
And it's Marriage Builders.
Right.
Right.
Okay, now Marriage Builders, working with marriages, that's nothing new, but it's been happening a long time. Give me a little bit of a history.
Well, I started out as a psychologist.
Okay.
And got my PhD, and I became a teacher.
Yeah.
And people came to me with their marital problems. Now, they figured that psychologists ought to know something about marriage. And my father had been a psychologist, and he was a marriage counselor. But I discovered early on, actually, I started marriage counseling when I was only 19, and I wasn't successful. My friend who
Too early to start.
My friend who came to me thinking that I ought to know something about marriage, all the advice I gave him didn't work. He ended up getting divorced. And throughout the years, I was very unsuccessful. And so I figured that this was something that I just wasn't cut out for. Mm-hmm. And but the Lord does an interesting thing with us, and that is He lets us know that He has a plan for our lives. And the way He let me know that is He kept sending people to me with marital problems.
Hey, He wasn't going to quit.
Right.
But I didn't know what I was doing.
Right.
And the Lord wasn't giving me a whole lot of help.
Just a lot of people.
Yep. And so the basic idea was, I figured, well, I better train myself in this. And so I went to, I did a 2-year internship, and I read a lot of books, and I got specialized training from the chairman of the Marriage and Family Department at the University of Minnesota. And what I discovered was that this fellow that was training me had a horrible marriage himself. The person that I did the internship with, who had created what was advertised as the best program in America, was divorced before my internship was ended. And
okay, now during this time, you're married.
We are married, right?
Right.
How's your marriage doing?
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Oh,
Going
okay.
well.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Joyce and
Did
I.
you know why?
We thought we knew why. We thought we knew why.
Well, let's give Joyce the credit, okay? Let's just simply give Joyce the credit on this
take it.
one.
Well,
Absolutely.
there is something to be said for that. I will admit. But we thought we knew what we were doing that made it work, and I would try to communicate that to couples that I counseled, but they would end up getting divorced. Even those that would actually follow through on what I recommended.
Yeah.
The things that I recommended that had to do with the training program that I was in, improving communication, that sort of thing, didn't work either. So I went to work. I took it seriously. I figured the Lord is calling me this sort of thing, so I better be good at it. And so I went to work asking couples specifically, what could I do that would save your marriage? And like I say, I had
It's a good question.
Yes.
I had couples.
That's a very good
I
question.
had couples coming to me with broken marriages, and I would tell them, I don't know what to do. And they said, you're the best person we've ever come to, because everybody else we've seen They tell us they know what to do, but nothing they do works. At least you're honest enough to tell us that you don't know what you're doing. And so I said, listen, you got to help me with this. Because if you can help me with this, we will not only save your marriage, but we'll save thousands more if we understand the problem here. And what I heard from people, and I was counseling mostly Christians.
I'm loving this.
And
This is perfect. This is exactly
so what
it.
they were telling me was that they didn't want to live through a loveless lifetime. They didn't want to be married to somebody that they didn't love. They didn't want to be married to somebody that didn't love them back. And I would argue with them. I would say, but think of your children. Think of your commitment. Think of your faith in Christ. He doesn't want you to get a divorce. Why would you want a divorce when there are so many reasons to stay married? And they kept coming back with, I can't do this if I'm not in love. Now, to be honest with you, that isn't the first answer I got from people. Usually they would give me a lot of other answers. But as I would explore the real, honest, basic answers, it would finally come to the fact that they were not in love. I have yet, in my experience, and I've counseled thousands of couples personally, I have yet to have counseled one couple where they are both in love with each other, in love, feeling romantic love for each other. They want to get divorced. Nobody that is in love wants to get divorced.
And the key is really the romantic part of it as well. I mean, you can love your children,
not
you can
the
love
care they have for each other. Lots of people who care for each other want to get divorced. But nobody that's in love wants to be divorced. So I thought to myself, well, that's the answer. That's the answer. So as a
great. All done.
As a psychologist,
We got the answer.
Yeah, okay, but how do you accomplish it now?
Right.
That's
How do
the
you
main
do it?
I
thing.
love it.
Yeah.
How do you get people to be in love with each other? So I said, okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to train you as a couple to be in love with each other. And the first response was, well, that ain't going to happen. Because once you lose your love for somebody, you can't get it back. I said, there are lots of illustrations of people that lost their love for each other that got it back. Of course you can get it back.
Yeah.
But I don't know exactly how.
It's lost. Let's go find it.
I don't exactly know how to do that. And so we're going to have to think this one through.
Yeah.
Well, I come from a background in psychology, right? So psychologists ought to know something about emotions and how to create emotions. So I go back to Pavlov's dog. And
Very romantic,
do
yes.
you know about Pavlov's dog? Okay.
Yes.
So the idea is that just like in Pavlov's dog, when you associate the meat with the bell, eventually the bell causes the salivation that the meat would have caused before. Well, I thought, I'll bet you can do the same thing with romantic love. I'll bet if you associate really good feelings with a particular person, you will eventually feel good when that person shows up.
Yes.
And if you do it enough, or if you do it in large enough quantities, it may trigger romantic love.
And that's what happened when you first met your spouse. That chemistry was there.
Right.
They walked into the room, the flutter
Yeah.
came,
Yeah.
and so this is what we're recreating now in the marriage
So you got to remember I was
relationship.
teaching at the time, so I had
Yeah.
access to students, I had access to people. I did a lot of experiments, I said, okay, here are students that really are interested in the subject of romantic love. So the question is, how are we going to trigger romantic love in the students? So I had various experiments of that. I talked to people that I was counseling, and I said, okay, what we want to do is we want to have massive positive experiences. So I took to a couple, a husband and a wife, and I said to each of them, what could your wife do for you that would create a really, really great positive feeling? And so I would get a list of things from the men. I'd ask the wife the same thing, get a list of things from the women. And then I came up with the idea of the love bank. The love bank would be an easy way for people to understand how Pavlov's dog would work in in ordinary married life.
Right.
So the basic idea...
How do we make these kinds of investments?
How do we make deposits and withdrawals, you know,
and
withdrawals.
that happens too.
Negative
because
associations.
I want the love as well, but I'm also willing to give the love.
So anyway, the point is that I finally, after 2 or 3 years of trying to figure this out, I actually came up with a little test that would measure whether a person was in love or not. That was pretty accurate. After all of this, I found the list of things that most husbands said would, in my nomenclature, deposit love units for them that the wife could do. And I came up with a list of things that the wife could do that would deposit love units in the husband's love bank, okay? So after all of this had been pulled together, I noticed something that was absolutely, it was one of the best discoveries of my life, which I should have known. I should have known before I started all this, and that is that the list I got from men was very different than the list I got from women.
We're different.
It wasn't the same lists. So,
Surprise.
So
let me just jump in here. Joyce, how are you doing through all of these experiments?
I'm reaping the benefits of all of this.
Okay, because I'm sure he's bringing the work home and saying, these are my discoveries, this is what I'm finding.
Right. Really what was happening was we were participating in all of this already.
We were already doing all of this.
Okay. But we didn't know what to call it. And you know what's beautiful about knowing what the system really is it's a good check and balance. And now we know what we're doing, and we can monitor, are we still doing it? That kind of a thing. But we had no problem.
This is healthy behavior.
Yes.
And it will produce health. It'll produce the life that you want.
If you follow it,
are you
it's
still
guaranteed.
Doing it?
Yes.
Okay.
And are you still doing it? And that's the question I think couples have to ask constantly in your relationship. The world is not designed to help happy marriages and healthy marriages. They don't say, have you had time with your spouse this week? You know, it's very much like in our relationship with God. I wish there was a billboard that said, did you talk to God this morning? You know, that kind of a thing.
Have you enjoyed your marriage today?
Exactly. Have you deposited love units? Are you meeting each other's needs? And it's a good way to kind of test it and evaluate where you are in your relationship.
I mean, you're here by design purpose that people might enjoy their marriages. I want to help you if you're stuck. You know, if you're at war with one another, I want there to be peace. But ultimately, I really want you to enjoy life with each other.
That's it.
That's what I really, really want.
And to finish my story, I'm
not going to let you.
I'm an engineer at heart. I'm an engineer at heart.
So let's create something.
My background, I started out my college education with an engineering emphasis. I was going to be an engineer. And I was going to be a scientist. And so my whole thought is, okay, I got a list of things from the husband, I got a list of things from the wife that would deposit the most love units. I want to think efficiently. See, I don't want to waste people's time. So I want to know what would do the most good. What deposits the most love units?
For the effort you're putting into this.
I don't want people to be doing a lot of things that are unnecessary. So you're
going to make an investment. What's going to result in the greatest return?
Exactly.
And this is especially attractive to men. Men want to know what does she want that will require the least amount of effort.
And the most least amount I can do to get the most benefit.
Most benefit.
You're thinking man talk here.
That's right. So I came up with what I called the most important emotional needs. Most important emotional needs are the things that would deposit the most love units for both men and women. What can a man do that when he does it is the most likely to trigger a feeling of romantic love in his wife? What can a woman do that's most likely to trigger a romantic feeling of love in her husband? I call those the most important emotional needs. Now, as soon as I discovered all that, I started applying it, and my success rate just all of a sudden went skyrocketed.
It worked.
I was successful. One after another that came in. I became very, very popular in the Twin Cities. I finally gave up my job teaching, and I went into full-time clinical practice. Now, at the time, I taught a Sunday school class on the subject of marriage, and I described these most important emotional needs during my Sunday school class. Somebody had the wisdom to tape record the whole thing. and somebody else had the wisdom to transcribe it.
Yeah.
So all of that was done for me. It was done, I kind of knew it was happening, but I wasn't paying a whole lot of attention. Somebody came to me as a client, somebody's a client that worked for Revell Publishing. And he said, you know, your program is so great, you need to write a book about it. And I said, well, I'm really not a good writer. But here are some transcriptions of a Sunday school class I did. And we sent that to the publisher. They accepted the book. I finished it up. I wrote it up as a book.
And the rest is history.
The rest is history. So that's His Needs, Her Needs. His
Right.
Needs, Her Needs is the first book I wrote on marriage.
And that was back in the mid-'80s.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Now, here's the thing. Everything that you've said so far, people are waiting for that list.
Right.
I mean, they really don't care anything more about what you say, because I want to know what I can really, really do. Here's the thing, because what you wrote in the mid-'80s is not outdated today.
No.
In fact, you were saying that, you know, the copies sold, you know, what, you said 3 million?
We're over 3 million copies.
Okay, but
yeah.
this year outsold last year.
It's selling more every year, and we are, there's no end in sight.
Yeah,
So.
but here's the thing, because your story, I'm glad you finished it. We'll get on to something. but the thing is...
Bob will take charge
No,
now.
but right now, everybody wants to know. Because what they want to do is they want that romantic love back. They want to feel loved. You know, and deep down inside, they're like, you know, divorce isn't the answer if I were loved and knew love. Because if, you know, as you said, you've never seen a couple that were romantically in love wanting divorce or separation. You know, because
Right.
why? I'm loved.
Right.
I'm desired. I'm wanted. Well, let me encourage you. His Needs, Her Needs. Available from us here at New Day Ministries. You can get it at marriagebuilders.com.
Right.
It's there. I mean, there's all kinds of books, but let's continue in looking at this, because I want to put this in your home. You need to be reading this. Why? So that you can begin to make those deposits and withdrawals and begin to thrive and enjoy the marriage you've always wanted. Is that okay?
Yeah, except you don't want to make withdrawals. You only want to make deposits. We'll be talking
Only.
we'll be talking about how to avoid making withdrawals later.
Well, then where's the benefit?
The benefit is
Yeah,
that if you make deposits,
Yes.
both of your love banks grow and grow,
Yeah.
and you end up being in love with each other. If you make withdrawals, you're going to
You
lower
deplete
those
it.
love bank balances.
And we would call those love busters.
Love busters.
But I know where you were going, because if
Yeah.
I withdraw money and I
Yeah.
give it to you,
Yeah.
you were thinking that was
It takes
deposited.
away
from some-
Right, but it's not.
In
the-
marriage,
yeah.
that doesn't have to happen. You can be depositing into both love banks at the same time.
And you're enjoying, and you're growing and
Exactly.
thriving.
That's right.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful. This is good. Building an affair-proof marriage. All right, let's go. Where are we going to go to from here?
Well,
Okay.
what are they?
Okay?
What are the
Here's the
most
thing that
important
you were
emotional needs?
saying that I thought was great. You know, the language, and we talked before the program, you're saying out of this, you know, you really almost wrote this book more towards a men, you know, a little bit of a bend towards the men, you know, because we just tend to be a little more lazy.
Well, that is because in my counseling, in the counseling that I did, I came to recognize that it was hard to get men on board.
Okay.
Very hard. That basically I had women telling me that they wanted help making their marriage fulfilling, and the men were very reluctant
Okay.
to
And
be involved.
do men tend to more than women say, I'm okay with this? And the woman is like, I'm not
Yes.
okay with this.
Very much
Oh,
so.
with
ahead,
this
Joyce.
concept, you mean?
No, not the
No,
concept,
just with
the
marriage.
marriage.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just in general.
Marriage, what I want in
Yeah.
marriage
Yeah.
is for you and I to be able to get along. Men just, you know, want to enjoy the marriage,
Yeah. And-
want to be able to make love,
Yeah.
want to be able to, you know,
Have a meal at night.
yeah.
And
But the
children
idea
bathed.
of being romantically involved seems like an
emotion.
awful
More the woman wants.
lot
Yes.
of
Right.
work.
Exactly. Right.
Okay.
And
Go ahead.
the book appealed to the men, which was, when it first came out, was more unusual because what is this stat? 90% of women buy the books.
85%.
85%.
Buy books on marriage.
On marriage.
And hardly any men read it.
They're geared, and they are then geared, they're focused, they're aimed at the person who is purchasing the book.
Yeah.
And so finally a book came out and said, hey men, I want to talk to you about this. And they were addressing things that they could really relate to as, yes, this is a need I'd have. I wouldn't have known how to verbalize it, but I really do want this in the relationship.
Now, I don't write that specifically. I don't say, look, this is written to men.
Yes.
It's a balanced book. The woman's needs are emphasized just as much as a man's
very
needs.
balanced. Yeah.
But what men notice when they read the book is that there's not a lot of psychobabble. There's not a lot of frilly stuff.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of talk about your childhood.
Yeah.
It's very
makes
direct.
sense.
Yeah, right.
And the whole thing is that the success is there, it works. And if we can get this concept, you can begin to rekindle that romantic love, the feelings and the emotions that you've wanted, and begin to enjoy life. We need to take a break. His needs, her needs, available from us here at New Day Ministries. Again, I've encouraged you in the past, to continue to, feed your marriage, feed your relationship, feed yourself. That you might be the one that has what it takes to give. You're a wonderful person, and you're perfect for each other. And I don't want you to, can think, no, we're incompatible. No, you're very compatible. It's just that you're missing each other. And so we're going to take some time this week, and we're going to help you. We're going to come back from the break, and we're going to begin to identify what are his needs. What is the most, return that I can give? What are hers as well? We'll be back right after this break.
Is the chemistry you once had with your spouse all but gone? Do you bring out the worst in each other? Then you need the book Love Busters. Dr. Willard Harley identifies the 6 love busters that tears marriages apart and shows you how to avoid them. Then take your marriage off the charts with His Needs, Her Needs. Dr. Harley explains the most common emotional needs for spouses and sets up your love bank accounts. This explosive combo of books by Dr. Willard Harley is available for purchase today.